All right, part two. I found that this is the only way to get everything all together is to have to split up my videos. All right, so now that we've learned a little bit about age structure diagrams, also known as population pyramids, let's talk a little bit more about them in detail. So essentially, when we're looking at those pyramids, right, what they were showing in the video, what we're looking at is the numbers of males and females in three different age groups. And here's the age groups. Um, we have what's known as pre-reproductive, and I'll just throw out these are good words to know. So a pre-reproductive person is someone that falls between the age of 0 and 14, meaning they're too young to reproduce. You then have reproductive ages, even though, yes, this is where both you and I fall. Please don't start reproducing. But anyone between the age of 15 and 44 is considered reproductive. And then you have our post reproductive. Okay, so know these three age groups. These are our youngest, middle. And what we do is we compare the amounts of these age groups, and this can tell us how fast a population is growing or even if it's declining. The big one that they want you to really focus on is the growth. Okay, and we tend to see large growth in populations with big pre-reproductive age categories, large percentages of young people who will move into the reproductive. Okay, so the best way to understand this is to look at different shapes and know how to interpret the shapes. So I have four shapes that I use to look at population pyramids. I have what I call the ice cream cone, the Christmas tree, the box, and the cup. And it's best to look at actual population pyramids when trying to understand these shapes. And remember, if I'm going a little too fast, this is all posted on Schoology. You have access to it. So let's start with this one on the top left. Notice that it has a very broad base. It looks like an upside down ice cream cone. So when we see this type of age pyramid, what you should know is that we are looking at a population that is going to grow and expand very rapidly. This is when we would see usually these populations that have a high growth rate, like usually 1.5 and higher. We're going to see this shape. That's because they have really high crude birth rates, lots of um, offspring, right? Lots of high fertility rate. Now, you also might notice that when we look at the top, at these really top part of the post reproductive, we see a short life expectancy. We don't see a whole lot of people residing up there. Most of the people are going to fall down here in the pre reproductive and even in the reproductive. Post reproductive, you have a very small percentage of the population. This tells us that the crude death rate is also going to be pretty high, and again, a short life expectancy. Don't feel the need to write down everything. We will continue to apply this, I promise. Okay, but know a couple things. Versus if you look at this population pyramid, well, our base isn't as broad. We still are more triangular shape, but this one's not as so wide at the base. We still have a good number of pre-reproductive and reproductive, right? Those are the big part of the population. But we are starting to see it move up into the post-reproductive as well. And this is indicative of a more slowly growing population. It's still growing, but maybe not as rapidly as, say, the ones that we just saw. We still have a lot of babies being born, so still a high crude birth rate, still high total fertility rate, but our crude death rate is lowering, so we can see more people up here in our post-reproductive, and lifespan and life expectancy is rising. Versus, let's keep going, this shape, which is a little bit more boxy, right? We see, right? They're pretty even, those pre and those reproductive people. This is indicative of a more stable growing population. So this would be, and I put 0.2. I would say this is more like 0. Like even 5 maybe. These are like stable, slow growing populations. Usually we see that our crude birth rate and crude death rate are really close together, sometimes even equal, and our fertility rates dropping. We have really low infant mortality rates, and it says short, and I keep meaning to change it. This is a nice long life expectancy. So see lots of post-reproductive people up there. And then last but not least, this one's becoming more and more common. Notice we have like a really small base. And this is what I call the cup shape, and it tells us that a population is declining. So we're going to see more negative growth rates because our birth rate is much lower than our death rate. We have more people dying than being born. So our population's not going to grow. Usually we see lots of life expectancy, right? High life expectancy, so lots of post-reproductive. It's just we don't have a lot of babies being born. We got a lot of old people in our population. So know these four shapes would be my biggest piece of advice, and know a little bit about how they help us to understand a population's growth. Now, the best way for you to understand this is to practice this on your own. So here's what I want you to do. And remember, you can always go back and look at this. Everyone that's in class is going to get one of these bad boys right here. Okay, so everyone needs the worksheet. If you're doing this at home online, you can make a copy of this. Okay, and then you also need the reference data and the student data sheet. Now let's start with the reference data. Hopefully you remember what country that you did for our assignment a couple weeks ago. If not, choose a random country. Okay, it's fine. Just choose. If you've kind of forgotten, I kind of still have some of the groups. Let me see if I can get to it real quick. So here's probably some of the table groups. And then here's some of the others. So if you don't remember, go to those. If not, just choose one and find it at the bottom. I'm going to do Kenya as an example. So no one do Kenya. I hopefully remember which country you're doing. Okay? All right. Here's what I want you to do. What I've given you is I've given you all the data you need to make your own population pyramid. You're not going to need to make it today. We're going to make it probably tomorrow, but I want you to do the calculations today. Okay? Here's how you do the calculations. Take this data and copy it. Or Control C. So find your country first of all. Okay, no one's doing Kenya, so let's say I'm doing Lebanon. Okay, I would copy that data. Then go to the other document. Now this one, notice I've set to make a copy, and that's just so that you're not, I can't make a copy. It's going to make a copy for you off the bat. Click on cell B3 and paste. And what it's going to do is just going to populate your whole data table with the data. Then you can get rid of this. Boop, it's gone. Okay, now we need to set it up so it will do calculations for us. So tomorrow, all we have to do is graph. When we're looking at population pyramids, essentially what we're doing is we are comparing the amount or the percentage of different age groups of males versus females. So for example, the first thing I want to calculate is the males, and this is in Kenya, that's the one I'm doing, that are between 0 and 4 years of age in 2020. Sorry, my brain totally just faded. How do we do that? Well, let's make Google do the work for us. First thing I want you to enter is an equal sign. This essentially lets them know, the Google know that, hey, I'm going to do an equation. We want to take data from here, from the data table on the left, and get it into the data table on the right, but we need to put it in the equation. So remember, I'm looking for the males, 0 to 4. How much of the population does that represent? So here's the easy thing for this one. You don't have to necessarily copy this number. Let's just select this. Oops. Sorry, I'm trying to get there. We want this number. Okay, this one right here. Now, you could type it, but we'll just select it. And that's going to do it for us. Oops, not that way. Equal sign, parentheses, now click that. Okay, so I have the total number of males in that age group, and I want to find the percentage of the population that represents. So I'm going to take, notice at the bottom, I have total population. Now, I clicked on the cell last time. It doesn't work for this one, I promise. You'll thank me. Type in that number as it is. So for me, I'm going to type in 53,513,653. You're going to type whatever number you see, it will calculate for you. End parenthesis. Now if I press enter right now, okay, that's not a percentage yet, because what do you have to do to a percentage? You have to multiply by 100. For this sheet's multiply is an asterisk, so just select the asterisk and multiply by 100 and chalk. There's our percentage. So what this tells me, in Kenya in 2020, about 6.5, we're rounding here, it's about 6.53% of the population was a male between the age of 0 and 4. We can do the same thing with the females. Equal sign. Oh, look, it's going to do it for us. So notice it's taking the female population divided by that total at the bottom, multiplying by 100. Yay! Okay, here's the last easy part. See this little blue square? It's right there, right there, right there, right there. Click it and drag. And what this does is it does something fancy, but it tells it to basically do the same thing, but just exchange out the numbers. I don't know how else to explain it, but it will do the work for you. Now I have for every other part of the population, and then I just do the same for females. Ta-da! And now you have your percentage data. Okay. Last but not least, hopefully there's enough time. What I want you to do is I want you to take this data and I want you to make a population pyramid. Mine's going to look a little different because I changed this for the people that are in person because it wasn't giving me enough, but the idea still remains the same. You're essentially making a bar graph. Oops, I don't know why I just did that. Okay. On the left, you have the males. On the right, you have the females. And notice we have our different age brackets. Okay, let's start from 0 to 4. For me, it says males 0 to 4 are 6.53% of the population. So I'm going to make a bar, and because I don't get the option for the bar, I'm going to do a rectangle. And you should do 2 different colors, by the way. Don't use the same color for males versus females. Oh, I meant select blue. Let's clear that. Okay, and I'm going to do 6.5. I'm going to try to get as close as I can. Like something like that. So that'd be the males. Okay, and then I would do females. It's 6.45, so pretty close. There we go. Okay, so what you're going to do is you are going to set up your sheet to do your data for you, and then graph. We will talk more about, oops, it's going to, of course, follow. We will talk more about this tomorrow. Okay, so you do not need to do that yet, but I definitely want you to come in with your population pyramid all set to go. I hope you have a great day. I hope everyone's feeling healthy. If you have any questions, send me an email. But again, I will be back on Tuesday. No worries. Have a great rest of your day, my friends. I'll see you later. Bye.